Welcome back to The Mind, a podcast series by the Ramakrishna Vedanta Centre, New Zealand. A conversation at the meeting point of modern science and the contemplative traditions of yoga and Vedanta. I'm Rama, your host. So far, the group has learnt to settle the body with rhythm and to train attention on the cushion. But Swamiji opens today with an uncomfortable arithmetic. You might sit beautifully for 40 minutes in the morning and then spend the next 12 hours in ordinary life, reacting, grasping, snapping, and by sunset, the mind can be heavier than when you woke. The cushion is a small island in a long day, so this lesson leaves the cushion entirely and asks the largest practical question of the whole module. How can ordinary action, the work itself, the emails and the meals and the difficult conversations, become a practice that lightens you instead of weighing you down? The answer the contemplative traditions give is famous and almost always misunderstood. It is not stop caring. Swamiji will show, with a runaway carriage and a single quiet question, that it is closer to the opposite. Care completely and let go of the grip. And Dr. Watson will find that the old ethical disciplines turn out to describe, with some precision, what the body does under years of strain. The technology of action and offering. Let's join them. The same room. The group has the slightly tired, satisfied look of people who have been practicing in earnest and have things to report.
Last week, you each met the watcher, the awareness that notices the wandering and does not itself wander. Tell me what you found. Sarah?
The 1-minute version saved me. I stopped trying to find silence and just stopped turning up the noise. And the watcher, I actually caught it more than once. The moment I noticed my mind had drifted, I realized the noticing part was completely calm. It was strangely steadying to know that part of me is always fine.
That steadiness is the ground everything else stands on, Sarah. James?
Telling the students that wandering is the rep, not the failure, was the single best thing I've done all term. The relief in the room was visible. One boy who'd written himself off as unable to focus suddenly engaged because catching the drift was finally allowed to count as success.
You lifted a hidden shame, James. That is real teaching. Kai?
I followed the roar, like you said, just leaned slightly toward what the word points at, no commitment. And the wandering genuinely dropped, I counted. But here's my honest problem. I can do this for 20 minutes in my room, then I go out into the day and I'm a completely different person, reactive, scrolling, snapping at my flatmate. The calm doesn't survive contact with my actual life.
Kai, you have just stated the entire problem of this lesson better than I could. Hold that exactly. Dr. Watson?
The obstacle naming changed my consultations. Instead of try meditation, I could say which obstacle was active and match the suggestion. But it raised a question I couldn't answer. So much of what wears my patients down isn't on any cushion. It's the texture of how they live all day, the conflicts, the grasping, the way they treat people and are treated. I kept thinking the 20-minute practice can't outrun the other 15 hours.
And that, Doctor, is the door we walk through today. You have all, in different words, said the same thing. The practice works on the cushion and then the day undoes it. So today we ask how the day itself, every ordinary act in it, can stop undoing the practice and start becoming it. Let me draw Kai's problem plainly because it is everyone's. Picture the mind's filter of habit, the riverbed we have spoken of since Module 2, the accumulated grooves through which you meet each new moment. Every single thing you do, all day, however small, cuts a little deeper into that bed. A glance, a thought, a reply, a meal, a reaction. Each one leaves a mark. So here is the arithmetic, Kai. You sit for 20 minutes and lighten the bed a little. Then you spend 12 hours cutting fresh grooves through reactive, grasping action. By sunset, the bed is deeper than it was at dawn. The cushion lightened you by a spoonful. The day weighed you down by a bucket. This is not a failure of your meditation. It is simple accounting.
That's exactly it. So what? I meditate more? Sit for 2 hours? I don't have 2 hours.
No, and that is the key insight. There are not more hours. More sitting cannot be the answer. The only possible remedy is to change the other 15 hours, to transform the action itself so that the day stops cutting grooves and begins, instead, to smooth them. The whole of life becomes the practice, or the practice keeps losing to the whole of life.
When you say every act leaves a mark, how literally do you mean that? A glance can't matter much.
More literally than feels comfortable, James. Let me give you a small, exact example, the kind that happens to everyone. Imagine a flicker of resentment toward a colleague. You act on it, just slightly. A sharp word, a withheld kindness, a grievance you privately rehearse on the drive home. It feels satisfying in the moment, but notice what just happened underneath. The thought, "This person is against me," has been cut a little deeper into the bed. Tomorrow, you meet that colleague through a slightly heavier filter. The next sharp word comes a little more easily. Within a few months, their mere face triggers the whole pattern automatically, and a relationship that started neutral has become a fixed source of misery.
That is uncomfortably familiar. I can name 2 relationships I've done exactly that to, without ever deciding to.
Without ever deciding to, Sarah, that is the crucial point. You were not wicked. You were caught in a feedback loop doing what feedback loops do. Each act feeds the pattern that produced it, and the pattern grows louder, and the next act comes more easily, and it compounds. We met this loop in the abstract in Module 3. Here it is, running your Tuesday. And now, multiply it across everything: work, food, opinions, the news, and you have the ordinary shape of an unfree life. Not because anyone is bad, because the loop, left alone, simply doubles.
So the question becomes, where can you actually break into the loop? You can't undo the past that built the riverbed.
Precisely the right question, Doctor, and the answer is liberating. You cannot reach the past. You cannot cancel the conditions you woke up inside today. But there is one place the loop is always open to you: the present act. The mark being cut right now is the one mark whose character you control. Not the whole river, just the next stroke. And it turns out that is enough, because every day is made entirely of next strokes. So how do you change the character of the next act? The contemplative traditions give an instruction so famous it has become a cliché, and the cliché has buried its real meaning. The Bhagavad Gita puts it in one line: "You have a right to the action, never to its fruits. You may act fully. What comes of it is not yours to clutch."
See, this is where I check out. Don't be attached to results sounds like a recipe for not caring, for doing a half job and shrugging. That's not a life I want.
And you are right to reject that, Kai, because that is the great misreading, and it has ruined this teaching for centuries. It is the exact opposite of what is meant. Let me give you the picture that fixes it. Swami Vivekananda asks, imagine a carriage pulled by 4 powerful horses racing downhill. The driver can let the reins go slack and let the horses bolt where they will, or he can hold them firmly with all his strength and steer. Which takes more power?
Holding them, obviously. Letting go is the weak option. Restraint is harder than release.
Far harder, James, and far more powerful. The bolting carriage is grasping action, all the energy flying outward, fast, scattering, frittering itself away on the craving for the result. The driver holding the reins is non-attached action. The same horses, the same speed, the same direction, but governed, aimed, effective. So when the tradition says release the fruit, it does not mean drop the reins. It means take them up properly. Care completely about the work. Release only the white-knuckled grip on the outcome. The release is what steadies your hands. The surgeon who is terrified of failing operates worse than the surgeon who cares utterly and has let go of the fear. Care without grip is not less. It is the most skillful action there is.
That actually reframes my whole morning routine with the kids. Most of my stress isn't the doing, it's the gripping, the desperate need for it to go a certain way. The grip is the suffering, not the task.
You have found the exact joint, Sarah. The grip is the suffering. Now, why do we grip the fruit at all? Here the tradition goes one level deeper, and it is the most freeing idea in the lesson. Ask yourself, who is actually doing your actions? You feel like the doer, but where does the energy come from? Every breath, every heartbeat, every flash of thought, you did not manufacture any of it. A deeper power, the very life in you, is doing all of it. The body and mind are instruments it plays, and the small self, the ego, comes along after the act and stamps it. I did that. That stamp, I am the doer, is where the grip is born. Because if I did it, then the reward is owed to me. The credit is mine. The result belongs to me.
So the grasping is downstream of claiming ownership in the first place.
Exactly downstream, Kai. And see the elegant consequence. If you quietly stop claiming to be the sole doer, if you act as what you already are, an instrument through which life is working, then there is no separate little owner left for the fruit to belong to. The grip has nothing to hold on to. Krishna's deepest instruction is just two words. Be the instrument. Not become one. Recognize you already are one and stop pretending otherwise. Solve the false ownership and the grasping dissolves on its own. And now the whole mechanism clicks into place. An act done with the grip leaves what we can call an outward-going mark, one that thickens the riverbed and tightens the small self. An act done as an instrument, with the grip released, leaves a returning mark, one that actually lightens the bed and loosens the small self. These two are not just different, they are opposites. The returning mark cancels the outward-going ones. So a day of released action does not merely stop deepening the grooves. It begins, stroke by stroke, to smooth them. That is how the day stops undoing the cushion and starts extending it.
So this isn't ethics in the moralizing sense, it's structural. Release the grip and the very same act that would have deepened the rut instead wears it smoother. The action and its medicine are one move.
One move, Doctor, exactly. And there is a final turn that makes it concrete and answers Kai's, I'm a different person out in the day. There is a simple practice you can carry into any act, and it is just a question. At the threshold of anything that matters, even a reply to a message, even cooking a meal, ask inwardly, to whom or to what am I offering this? You do not need a grand answer. The asking itself turns the act from grabbing toward giving. Swami Vivekananda gave the most beautiful form of the answer in 5 words. Serve the living being Knowing the living being is divine, the same deeper power that is the real doer in you is equally present in the person in front of you. So an act offered to them is an act offered to the source itself. The meal you cook is the same meal, the email is the same email. But done this way, the serving and the worship become a single act, and it leaves the lightest, cleanest mark of all.
I notice I can do the question without signing up to anything. What am I offering this to can just mean something larger than my own ego scorecard. That I can use.
Use it exactly like that, Kai. The orientation is what matters, not the label you give it. Lean it toward whatever is most true for you, the well-being of the person, the work itself, the larger whole. The asking does the work. Now, 2 extensions, and then the honest question of where each of you should actually start. The first extension is service, seva, doing for others without grasping the fruit. And it is the most powerful single practice in this whole family, because it does 2 things at once. It lightens your filter, like any released action. And, when done alongside others who are also oriented this way, it lifts you the way singing in a group lifted the heavy heart last lesson. The company of people pulling in the same direction raises you with them.
There's a trap there, though, isn't there? The helper who burns out, the savior who needs to be needed.
A sharp and important catch, Doctor, and the tradition is firm about it in a way that surprises people. Swami Vivekananda said, bluntly, that we do not serve the world because the world needs our help. We serve because the serving is our own exercise, our own medicine. The good that reaches the other is the form the practice takes, but it is not a project of fixing them. This sounds cold for a moment, and then it becomes the thing that protects service from collapsing. The moment you serve to fix someone, you have gripped a fruit, their outcome, and you are back in the bolting carriage. When you serve because the serving itself is the practice, you can give freely for decades without burning out, because you were never holding the reins of their life.
That reframes my entire profession in a healthier way. I help because helping is what I'm here to practice, not because I am personally responsible for every outcome. That is how you survive 40 years of medicine without it hollowing you out.
It is exactly how, Doctor. Now, the second extension, and it is your territory especially. The ordinary ethical disciplines, the simple things, not harming, telling the truth, not taking what is not yours, not grasping more than you need, keeping body and surroundings clean, conserving your energy. The tradition treats these not as a moral rule book, but as something more practical. They lower the background static of the whole system. Think of it this way. A life shot through with small deceptions, low conflicts, constant acquisitive comparing, that life runs a permanent low hum of stress underneath everything, and the hum drowns out every finer signal. Live more cleanly, and the hum drops. And suddenly, all the other practices work because they are no longer fighting that constant noise.
And this is where the science is unambiguous. The body genuinely keeps the score. We can measure it. A nervous system living in chronic conflict and defensiveness sits in a permanently guarded state with raised baseline stress, worse sleep, worse digestion, worse immunity. There is a whole body of research on what we call allostatic load, showing that years of interpersonal incoherence, deception, conflict, grasping leave marks in blood pressure, in inflammation, even in the cells. And lives of low conflict and cooperation show measurably lighter wear across decades. The old disciplines were describing in moral language what we now read in lab results.
That convergence moves me every time, Doctor. The sage and the laboratory describing one machine. So the ethical life is not a separate department from the contemplative one. It is the floor the whole building stands on. Now, the honest question. Where does each of you begin? Because the starting point is different depending on which way you are drifting, and getting it wrong does harm.
Let me guess, it's the heavy versus fasting again.
It is the same fork, Kai, applied to action. If you are in the fast drift, already busy, already acting even compulsively, like you with your reactive days, then you do not need more action. You need only the quality shift. Keep doing everything you do, but ask the offering question. Release the grip. You already have the motion, you just redirect it. For you, that is the whole prescription, and it is enough to begin.
And the heavy drift? The days you can't get off the sofa?
For the heavy drift, Sarah, you must be gentle and honest. You cannot prescribe service to someone who genuinely cannot begin to act at all. That only adds failure to heaviness. There, you go back to the first doorway, rhythm and sound, the breath, the chant, the movement, to get the system moving again. Only once a little energy is flowing does action become possible, and then small, structured service alongside others is the perfect next step, because it supplies the momentum from outside that the person cannot yet generate within. And there is a subtle thing here worth naming. Not acting can come from two completely opposite places. There is the not acting of someone too depleted to begin, which is the heaviness itself. And there is the not acting of someone fully able to act, who freely chooses stillness. From the outside, they look identical. Inside, they are opposites. You cannot leap to the second by imitating it. You have to build the capacity to act first, and then freedom in action becomes a real choice.
So you can't fake the serenity of someone who could act, but chooses not to, by just not acting because you're stuck.
You cannot fake it, James, and the attempt is one of the quiet traps of this path. Build the capacity first. The calm of true freedom is on the far side of being able, not on the near side of being unable. This week is beautifully simple. One ordinary act each, done differently. Not a new task added to your day, the same day, one act repointed. Sarah, choose one repeated act you already do for your family, the evening meal, the bedtime routine. And this week, do that one act as an offering. At its threshold, ask silently, to whom am I offering this? And let the answer be the people in front of you, met as more than just your tired Tuesday obligations. Notice whether the grip loosens and the act feels different from the inside.
One act, the question at the threshold, serve the people, not the chore. I can feel already that it will change the bedtime battle, because the battle is all grip.
It is all grip, Sarah, and the question loosens it. James, yours is the marking pile, or the hardest class. Before you begin, ask the question, and serve the student in front of you as they actually are, not as a problem you must fix or a result you must produce. Watch whether releasing the outcome makes you, paradoxically, more effective rather than less.
Offer the marking, serve the student, not the target, and test whether letting go of the result improves the work. That's a good experiment. Done.
It usually does improve it, James. Report back. Kai, yours is the feedback loop itself. This week, catch one reactive, grasping act before it lands. The sharp message, the rehearsed grievance, the scroll. And instead of acting on it, just notice the claim underneath. I am the doer. This is owed to me. You do not have to suppress anything, just see the claim. and see if the grip loosens when you do. Pure experiment, no belief.
Catch the reactive act. Spot the "I'm owed this" claim underneath it. Watch what happens to the grip. That's genuinely interesting because it's about seeing the mechanism, not forcing virtue. I'll run it.
That is exactly the right framing, Kai. See the mechanism and let the seeing do the work. And Dr. Watson, yours is twofold and clinical. First, bring the offering question to one act of patient care this week and serve the person, not the metric. Second, watch in your consultations for the bodily cost of the unclean life we discussed, the wear of chronic conflict and grasping, and consider, where it fits, naming ethical coherence itself as part of the medicine, not as a sermon, but as care for the nervous system.
Offer one act of care and treat the texture of how a patient lives as a clinical variable, not a moral one. That dignifies both the patient and the practice. I'll bring you what I see.
Then you each have your one act, and one act, repeated, becomes a life. Next time we open the fourth doorway, the path of understanding itself. How clear seeing, discrimination between what is lasting and what is passing, becomes its own direct practice. We have settled the body, trained attention, and transformed action. Next, we turn knowing itself into a tool. Until then.
And so the practice left the cushion and walked out into the ordinary day, where most of life is actually lived. Swamiji began with an honest arithmetic that anyone who has tried to meditate will recognize. A short morning practice lightens the mind a little, and then a full day of reactive, grasping action weighs it down a great deal, so that by sunset we can be heavier than we woke. The remedy is not more sitting. There are no more hours, but a change in the action itself. He showed how every act, however small, cuts a groove in the riverbed of habit, how a flicker of resentment acted upon becomes, months later, a fixed enmity, the feedback loop doing what feedback loops do. And then the turn, that the one place we can always break the loop is the present act, the next single stroke, whose character is ours to choose. The famous instruction, "Act fully, but release the fruit," was rescued from its long misreading. It does not mean stop caring. It means hold the reins like the coachman of 4 racing horses, care completely, and release only the white-knuckled grip, which is the suffering and not the task. Deeper still, that we grip the fruit only because the small self claims to be the doer, and that quietly recognizing ourselves as the instrument of a larger power dissolves the grip at its root, leaving one simple practice to carry anywhere. The question asked at the threshold of any act: to whom am I offering this? The group saw service as the doubly powerful practice that must never harden into fixing the world. The old ethical disciplines revealed as the quiet lowering of the body's background hum of stress, confirmed in the laboratory's own measures, and the honest counsel that the busy must shift the quality of action, while the depleted must first be helped to act at all. To go deeper, the full lesson 5.4 is available in the course Beginners, Conversations on the Mind in the Light of Modern and Spiritual Sciences, on the Ramakrishna Vedanta Center's website, www.vedanta.nz. It is also available as an app on Google Play and the Apple App Store by searching for Vedanta NZ. The body is settled, attention is trained, action is becoming offering. Next time, knowing itself becomes the practice. Until then, be gentle with your mind.